Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Andrews. I am the Director of Strategic Partnerships here at mHUB. Thank you again so much for coming to our annual Women in Manufacturing and Engineering Summit. I would like to welcome my panelists up to this stage to take a seat. I think we're getting one more chair here. You can slowly make your way up to the stage. Thank you. So that last conversation, I think, gave us a lot of material to dive into, but I really couldn't think of a better group of panelists to join me in this discussion that we're going to have for the next 40 minutes. Obviously the buzzword the last 24 months has been AI. And so we're going to dive more specifically into what an AI-enabled workforce looks like, particularly as it relates to addressing some of the workforce challenges and labor shortages across U.S. manufacturing. Before my panelists introduces themselves, I took a quick look at the bios and just did some quick math, but across the three of you, you have collectively over 60 years of experience as it relates to creating manufacturing policy, global manufacturing strategy and growth, operational efficiency, introducing and integrating digital solutions into organizations. So I really couldn't think of a better group of women and leaders to join me today to have this discussion. So we'll dive a little bit into the context in terms of why the U.S. has, why these labor shortages have persisted despite years of talking about it and investments in skill gap. And then really excited to dive into what some of those technologies, particularly AI solutions, look like, what we're seeing on the factory floor today, but also what that could look like in the near to medium term. But also want to address what some of those operational and ethical considerations that we need to be thinking about as we introduce these solutions and technologies to employees and what leaders and manufacturers need to be thinking about. So I would like to open it up really quickly to our panelists. I'd love for each of you to quickly introduce yourselves, and then we're going to just dive right into this conversation. So, Kara, please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I'm Kara Demirjian Huss. I'm the Senior Vice President at TCCI Manufacturing, which is our family business. My father bought the York division of Borg-Warner back in the mid-'80s. We are an air conditioning compressor technology company that really focuses on cabin cooling and battery cooling in the thermal management system. I also oversee our sustainability across our global locations in 10 countries, and our governmental affairs, which was instrumental in bringing we were the first recipient of REV, which is the Reimagine Energy and Vehicle Incentive Program through the state of Illinois, that we rewrote EDGE in order to create REV, and became the first recipient of that, and then went on to receive a $21.3 million grant to start the Clean Energy Innovation Hub here in Decatur, Illinois, which brings together one of the first electric compressor production facilities in the United States, a climatic center that will be opening up in spring. That's one of the largest climatic centers for testing in climate conditions -30 to +130. It's a 60-foot by 25-foot chamber with a large roadway dyno system within it, and solar, wind, capacity. So we're really excited about that. It's going to be game-changing in the industry. And then we also brought the Clean Energy Workforce Academy, which was a new workforce ecosystem that we put into our facility, which is Richland Community College, has 3 classrooms in our facility teaching an associate's in engineering degree with immersive access onto our plant floors and articulation agreements across the state of Illinois, so universities. So really excited about all 3 of those as part of our hub. I am also president and founder of DCC Marketing. We're a full-service women business entity with operations in Illinois, California, and Washington, D.C. So really happy to be here and excited for the discussion.
Thanks, Kara. Erica?
Hi, I'm Erica Augustin. I'm a sales leader at Amazon Web Services. I'm an engineer by degree, and I started my career out working for a medical device company designing vascular access products, and I was on the R&D and engineering side. But I slowly became fascinated during that time with the manufacturability of these medical devices. And so as I'm designing these products to meet the needs of patients and doctors, I was also fascinated with, all right, how am I gonna design this product to be able to manufacture it at scale? What is the subassembly gonna look like? What is it gonna look like when I package this product and sterilize it, and how is that gonna affect the functionality? And so it really started me down a path of manufacturing engineering. I then left that company and went to work for a discrete manufacturing company for the next 13 years and found myself, similar to Jennifer, holding a variety of roles, from being on the plant floor to global supply chain to product development, as well as sales. And so during that 13 years at that manufacturing company, I was learning so much about the business. I started seeing the trend towards the technological advances, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so 5 years ago, I joined AWS, helping enterprise manufacturing companies digitally transform their business. So I'm really excited about this topic today because this is something that's top of mind for so many companies. So thanks again for having me.
Thanks, Erica. Michelle?
Yes, thank you. Similar to Erica, I started my career in engineering as well. So classically trained mechanical engineering. I started my career at Ford Motor Company. I started within product development and then gradually moved to product strategy, overseeing the entire product lifecycle from where technology and strategy and kind of bottom line meet. So looking at the forward-looking technologies of the portfolio and how to optimize both profitably and sustainable for the domain. And then after business school, through my engineering degree, I was always gravitating towards kind of where business meets technology, and I'd say that's where, if you take a step back and look at my career, I'd say that's the intersection that I tend to play with. So, or play in rather. So I've spent, in the last 25 years, I've spent about half of the time in industry, manufacturing industry, and half of the time in consulting manufacturing-based businesses. So really looking at big real-world problems, the bottom line, as well as kind of that future path forward. At Roland Berger, I led the operations platform, which included everything from R&D, engineering, supply chain, procurement, manufacturing, after sales and service for the North America region. And in addition to my day job, I've held various board-level roles for manufacturing businesses, and I currently serve as chair of IMEC, which is the Illinois-based MEP, whose premise and mission is to advance small to medium manufacturers. So yes, through the years and decades, really spent a lot of time in global manufacturing competitiveness, how U.S. companies are competing vis-a-vis their global competitors, and also looking at, similar to Erica, the revolution or evolution, that'd be a healthy debate in the tech space, and how that has really transforming manufacturing competitiveness. So looking forward to the conversation today.
Great, thank you all so much, and just thanks again for being here and sharing all of your knowledge and expertise. Michelle, I actually would like to start with you, and I think before we jump into some of the exciting technologies that we're seeing and looking at it more from a solutions perspective, I'd like to maybe just do a little bit of context setting in terms of why, even after years of making investments in the skill gap or the labor shortage that we see exists across U.S. manufacturing, why is this still a challenge today? Could you just share a little bit more about kind of why we're here in this position?
Sure, happy to. So I'd say first to Two items on the macro level. First is that this isn't a new problem. So I personally, for the last decade and a half, have spent a lot of time looking at the talent gap in manufacturing, and it's a global challenge. So many industrial developed nations also face the same issue, as well as a lot of the newer countries that are advancing manufacturing also have a talent issue. So first and foremost, it's not a new challenge, and second, the U.S. is not alone. This is a fundamentally global challenge. I think when you turn to the U.S., a couple aspects rise to the top when you look at the skills gap here. I'd say, over the years, global manufacturing competitiveness have really shifted. It historically was a regional powerhouses, U.S., U.K., Japan. Things were built and produced there for those businesses. And as the global economy really shaped the manufacturing supply chain evolved with it. And so you saw a lot of labor rate arbitrage, a lot of developing nations really looking at industry to advance their economy. And so with that, the jobs, the manufacturing shifted quite a bit. And so in the US, a lot of offshoring took place. Now, fast forward, into 2025, we see a number. That trend is moving back. The amount of external kind of black swan shifts that have been taking place are much more fundamentally significant and much more often. So it's driving all of the global supply chain back to much more of a region for region, local for local approach. And so with that, the skills that have, or the jobs first and foremost, have shifted essentially, or are shifting back. But the jobs that are coming back aren't the same jobs that existed a couple of decades ago, right? Because of the technology and automation advances, and the fact that technology is not progressing on a linear path, it's progressing on an exponential path. And so fundamentally, the traditional institutions that the U.S. have had, although we have some of the best and brightest, it's hard to keep pace with that exponential aspect. And it's almost a prisoner's dilemma when you look at it, the company level skills. So many large manufacturers are spending millions. Siemens was quoted as spending $500 million last year in upskilling their talent alone. So it's not that companies aren't spending the money, but it's just the pace of change, the evolution of the skills itself. And the U.S. perception. I think it's great. We're here in October. For those of you that haven't heard of Manufacturing Month, it's a month celebrated nationally in which manufacturers open their door and try to overcome the perception of kind of dirty, dark, and dangerous into sexy, sustainable, and smart manufacturing. So really kind of changing the perception, because here in the U.S., I think that's another often challenge, is that vis-a-vis, a service or finance or other type of career, that manufacturing isn't always, seen as first and foremost. So I think, there's a few different cited challenges, but I'm very optimistic, and I think, especially with technology and digital advancements, that the perception of manufacturing is also changing.
Thanks. So I'm definitely hearing a lot of, it's really a need for more training, or just not happening fast enough, but just we need to do more of it and upskilling. Kara, question for you. Reshoring manufacturing production has been a pretty key narrative of the current administration. In the short term, I would imagine that's not as easy not as easy to do. So what are you seeing in terms of the challenges and that short-term urgency to bring a lot of those, Michelle, you were saying, those jobs back to the US, while then also confronting that skill gap? And then conversely, what are then some of the opportunities for the short term? for the U.S.?
Yeah, thank you. And first, I just want to say I think Michelle and I should go on a road show together because with her leadership in IMEC, and I'm incoming president for the Illinois Manufacturers Association, I think everything that we're speaking and doing, we'd like you to join our road show about the importance of manufacturing and workforce in our system and building our supply chain. I think were some key takeaways I think you were talking about and everything you said there. I think from the perspective of really growing and reshoring jobs here, I will say I'm very fortunate that we were early innovators in kind of building this thought process of not just bringing manufacturing and expanding it in the United States and reshoring some of what we're doing here, but thinking bigger, thinking much bigger about it and what that means, both from a workforce standpoint and from a technology development standpoint. And I think that was the birth of the Clean Energy Innovation Hub, those three pieces that really kind of work together, and workforce is a big piece of that. What we saw was a huge shortage in engineers, and the need, particularly in software embedded technologies and that development side of the business for us. And we also saw a big need on the plant floor for some more skilled operators. What we are seeing in the industry today, you walk into any manufacturing plant and it doesn't look the same. It isn't dark and dingy anymore. There's robots in there. There's automation. The majority of our line is automated, so that takes a different skill of an individual. Our engineers have to work with our technicians more. It goes into our labs and how we're developing our labs and our technicians in there. Within our climatic center, we're building an entire natural refrigerant testing facility that's being expanded with the help of the Illinois EPA. So we'll be testing a lot of these new refrigerants, and that has a workforce component. So that funding also helped us build those workforce pieces. And our partnership with Richland Community College, I think, is something that is very unique out there. There's a lot of collaborative partnerships, but we've been very fortunate to have an innovative partner with the community college and thinking about how does curriculum have to change? How do we have to teach differently? How do our engineers have to be embedded into their curriculum process? How do we use our plant floor to help activate hands-on training across these different areas? And these aren't just jobs for us. So let me also be clear, our Workforce Academy, unlike a lot of manufacturers out there, they build that for themselves. This was a public-private partnership. So this is about bringing jobs to the market for everyone. So whether we've got partnerships with Rivian, we're working with Caterpillar, all of these different organizations need these individuals coming out. And then it goes past that. We're now starting to build that into the pipeline from 8th grade through high school, and how do we create this tech prep program so that essentially a student could come out of high school with their associate's degree in engineering and then matriculate directly into a university, whether that's UIUC, whether that's Northern, whether that's Chicago State, whether that's ISU's new program, Millikan University within our community. We have built relationships across all those universities to help drive that faster into the pipeline in the areas that we all need those positions. So I think from a workforce standpoint, I think it really started, and bringing manufacturing here was more than just bringing manufacturing. It was about innovating at a bigger level. And so we were always out there challenging other companies to really think bigger than just what's in front of them and be part of making that change.
Erica, I'd love for you to jump in, because we're hearing about some of the technical training, or like how the curriculum has changed, and even 2-4-year universities, and even looking at starting in high school already to build that pipeline of workers. What are you seeing on the floor right now? You mentioned your experience with introducing more digital solutions to increase operational efficiency. What are some of the technologies that you're really excited about that you're seeing that are specifically addressing some of the skill gaps or the labor shortages that, as we're seeing this boost in more U.S. manufacturing can address?
Yeah, there's a lot of different technologies that I'm really excited about, and we've talked a lot about them today. The first one, of course, is robotics, robotics automation. We also talk about collaborative robotics, which is cobots. So where we are now looking at what tasks on the manufacturing floor can be automated. So think about the more mundane manual tasks that are being done, anything that requires a manual inspection, or machines that require just basic oversight. Material pickers, all of these types of jobs can now be replaced via robots. What that does, though, is it creates new roles as well. So now you're creating a role where you're overseeing these robots, overseeing the AI and the technology, which is really exciting. Another really exciting area is in the VR space, so virtual reality. So what we're seeing with a lot of manufacturing customers today is, instead of onboarding and upskilling employees on a real production line and holding up that production line, well, you can now train them in whatever cell or manufacturing line that they're going to be working on in this virtual reality space. And so we're seeing that onboarding process accelerate that much more quickly. That's really exciting. Also, you have telerobotics and teleoperations. And so now, where you used to require a person in every plant around the globe, you can now have one person overseeing, or even completely automate that process, so you can do more and scale with less people. The other really exciting thing is the digital twin aspect of it as well. So we're seeing a lot of digital twins come out with companies developing these. And then what's really exciting is what kind of NVIDIA developed, which is what we're calling the Omniverse, which is really pairing that digital twin with the virtual reality and creating these omniverses within these manufacturing plants. And companies are doing this today, and they're already starting to see a lot of the benefits and accelerants of addressing this workforce shortage with these technologies.
Yeah, I would say that's absolutely true. We're looking at digital twin integration into our facility. We're working with actually UIC right now on coming in and kind of doing an entire evaluation of our facility, and that's one area specifically that we're having them look at. And also looking at federal funding opportunities to help us further that faster. So I think there's a lot there. And I would also add that, with everyone here, there's a need. I also sit on the governor's board for Illinois Workforce Innovation Board, and I chair our stakeholder and communications engagement. So I'm helping write the Unified Workforce Plan for Illinois, and technology and this space that we're talking about today is one cutting thread through all sector strategies in Illinois. And so I think it's a really big piece of what we're doing, but one piece of what I think everybody here can help with is there's a shortage of teachers, particularly in math out there right now, and so we're trying to address some of that. And as individuals, how can we help the community colleges within our areas, or how can we help the universities be, an asset to them as they're looking to grow their faculty or adjunct faculty or speaking, or help support what's happening in the high schools right now with math shortages. So just areas to be thinking about if you have interest in. That is a big topic right now of discussion.
Michelle, I mean, if you want to jump in here, what are, when you think about an AI-enabled workforce, what are some technologies you're excited about? You mentioned at the beginning, it's really, it's a training issue, it's a skill gap. So what technologies are you seeing to help address that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say, given my consultative experience, and especially across each of the functional clusters, we've really seen a lot of companies embracing AI, and even recent studies that I've conducted indicate that out of the hundreds of CEOs, 86% feel that even with all of the technology advancements, that there's still going to be a skills shortage. So it's, I think first distilling the idea that AI is going to take away and displace, there'll be different jobs and it'll take our human element and they'll be much more suited towards us. I think when you talk about specific technologies, though, again, over dozens of companies that I've worked with in instituting automation, digitalization, AI, literally hundreds of use cases in and around AI, whether you're talking about R&D, product development that came up with Jennifer in the prior discussion as well as today. I think all of them that Erica cited in terms of robotics, cobots. I'd say for the shop floor in particular, predictive maintenance, a number of aspects in terms of not just digital twin, but kind of the digital factory. So when you take the digital product running down the line and, in some of the more electronics and aerospace and defense fields, you'll see the machines auto-adjusting based on the indications of the product. So no longer, it's definitely machine to machine and kind of optimizing the flow and optimizing for quality, optimization real time, which I think is fascinating. So seeing, I've, I guess one benefit in the space that I sit is I see companies in all forms of the maturity life cycle. So kind of meeting the company where they're at and using some of those kind of quick win type aspects, whether it's just sticking a button on an existing machine that's 100 years old and just looking at the vibrations and then kind of optimizing predictive maintenance. To, okay, we're not going to only have a digital product, but we're going to have a digital factory and kind of optimizing it at the macro sense. So I think it's exciting just to see how AI can help no matter where you're at in the journey, and it can help a variety of jobs as well as career paths.
Adding on to that, in our space in commercial vehicles, we're always looking at how can we produce not just a product, but impact the thermal management system in a way that brings total cost of ownership to the end user down and supports our OE customers' goals. But we're looking at, product innovation around sensor technologies like Michelle's talking about, and different AI embedded, preventative maintenance, so that we as a component part are really impacting the overall production of the vehicle itself and the impact for our customers. So AI truly does go throughout, but it also goes past that, past the production level, the product level. But, we're embedding, an AI system across our entire ecosystems of infrastructure, from productivity all the way through our engineering processes and embedded into our organization globally. So I think it's impacting not just from an engineering perspective, but administrative, marketing from our aspect of it, throughout all of our cross-functional teams.
Just sticking with this topic for a second, Erica, I think I might pose this to you. As we, Carrie, you've talked about like going back to starting in high school and preparing that future workforce. But what about the people in the workforce right now? We're introducing these new technologies, which might replace some of the jobs, enhance. Erica, you talked about the opportunity for then those individuals to manage what's happening, but can you share a little bit more about, like, for those that are in the workforce on the factory floor right now, what types of investments do these organizations need to be making to make sure that we're filling that digital literacy gap, that skills gap that will exist as we're introducing all this new technology?
Yeah, there's definitely a few things that companies can do today. The first, and I think it's kind of the theme of the topic, is the upskilling and hiring the right people. And so the continuous learning aspect is super important when it comes to AI. I can tell you at Amazon, the AI tools that we were using 6 months ago to, in everyday efficiencies in our business, those are now completely different. Agentic AI is changing the game, and if we're not constantly staying up to speed and ensuring that we're allowing our employees that learn and be curious and constantly training them, we're going to fall behind really quickly. So investing in the skill sets, constantly investing in that learning is priority number one. The second thing that organizations need to be thinking about is this is cultural transformation. And so you really need to have buy-in from your leaders that are really instilling the importance of these technological transformations and the importance all the way down to your mid-level managers, all the way down to the people on the shop floor. We know that a lot of manufacturing companies have launched a lot of AI projects today. But we also know that the adoption rate can be quite low. And so that really goes back to the culture and how they're managing the message down to the folks and why this is important. And then also kind of back to that training, hey, this is how you actually interpret the data, and this is how this is going to make your job more efficient. So there's kind of got to be that coordinated effort. The third piece that's really important is these companies need an overarching data strategy. And so when you think about manufacturing companies today, a lot of the data is locked up in these legacy systems on the plant floor, and it's really hard to create an AI strategy and bring automation into your factories if you're connecting to these legacy systems. And so it's really important to start thinking about what your tech stack is going to look like. What is your cloud strategy? What is your IoT strategy? And what AI tools are you going to leverage? And so and then I think actually to add on to that, which is probably the utmost of importance, is now then what is your cybersecurity strategy? Because we really got to think about security here. So I would bucket those three things into upskilling your teams and continuous learning, culture, and then your data strategy as an organization.
I'm really happy you brought up the culture piece, and Michelle, I think I'll pose this question to you next, but with the introduction of all these technologies, it's likely that some of these employees might be afraid of, is their job going to be replaced, and there might be that culture of technology resistance. And so can you share more about what companies, what employers should be doing as we think about this transition and that balance between the worker, but then also needing to bring in new technology to keep up with the rest of the globe?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, as a strategist at heart and, often working with the senior leadership of an organization, I think the single biggest success factor is kind of the ownership and adoption of the broader team, of the broader organization, to Erica's point, culture. And so I think aligning kind of that board level strategy and the tech, strategy behind it, and what your, data pools and tech, stacks look like, equal, if not more important, is your shop floor workers. They're the ones that actually, all of this innovation is to help enable productivity, efficiency. They're the ones that are living and breathing, all of your manufacturing and able to see, what technology could likely enhance, and then your engineers, your sales, your marketing, your supply chain. So at each almost job description, at each job role, identifying problems that need to be solved and then using AI, using broader technology to solve them. So typically what I like to do is we develop the bigger, broader strategy, but then identifying, maybe a dozen of just very pragmatic, very quick win use cases in which AI or automation or, different aspects, different technologies can solve for, and then implementing them quickly and getting success, and then celebrating that success, showing what one plant did for XYZ, and then kind of, hub and spoke, expanding that to other sites globally. And then, you start to build momentum, and you start to build buy-in, and kind of demystifying technology, demystifying AI, breaking it down to just the problems that need to be solved, and then solving them quickly, solving them efficiently, showing how it can make lives and jobs easier is what I feel, or what I've seen in terms of, ensuring broader success, and kind of taking the cultural, enigma out of technology, and creating more adoption.
Kara, in this vein of just other considerations, what are you seeing as some of the operational challenges, but also opportunities? At mHUB, we work with startups and a lot of small, medium-sized manufacturers. Cost could be prohibitive for many of these suppliers and manufacturers. So can you shed a little bit of light about what that transition could look like for that subset of manufacturers here?
Yeah, I think those are, really good questions. As a small, medium manufacturer, cost is always really top of mind for us, because making these kinds of large investments, you have to ensure we have the right partners. And I think that's always been the biggest challenge for us, is continuing to ensure that we have the right partners. We're thinking innovatively and ahead of others. And so, those things don't always align so well from that perspective, and globally. So, we have to make our operations in China and India and the United States and South America they all have to work jointly. And so that can be challenging in a technology environment with a lot of the restrictions that there are out there, ensuring our ERP system is functioning across that, making sure we're bringing AI integration into our ERP system, making sure that then it's translating across functions into our sales and marketing components of that. And those are all huge cost challenges. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest areas that we face, but making sure that our leadership team is all on the same page with that has been absolutely critical. We just came off of a global management meeting, and these conversations that we're talking about right now were really top of mind for us, and how we're positioning ourselves for growth for the next, 10, 20 years down the road. And so really identifying the right partners, ensuring that we have a good cost frame, ensuring that all of our global locations can get connected in one, and that we have the proper security in place to move us forward. So I think those are some really big things that are on our dockets right now as we look ahead.
Well, we're almost at time, so that went very quickly. So I think we do need this roadshow to continue the conversation. But I'll pose the last question to all of you so that we can finish out this discussion. But as we think about as leaders, which many of us are in this room, as we prepare for this transition, what's that one piece of advice that you would give to leaders as they are working with their employees, with their organizations during this time of really big technology transition? Michelle, I'll start with you.
Sure. I'd say first and foremost, set that forward-looking strategy ambition, have your senior leadership, on board. And then once you have kind of that North Star, make sure each and every, level of your organization know what that is and know how they can contribute or how it might impact their job in a positive way. And I think by breaking it down into very tangible and pragmatic based approach will help enable the journey and speed up the journey. And then second point would be, this opportunity. No singular player is going along. I think to Kara's point about building kind of your own ecosystem, finding the right partners, whether it's on the technology side, whether it's on the supply chain or customer side, it's getting much more interwoven, interconnected, so to speak. So, do look outside your own four walls and ask for help, ask what other people are doing, ask how they're solving the challenges that you have, because more times than not, you'll find a myriad of folks kind of trying to solve the same problems you are.
I'll kind of plus one to everything that you said, but also lean into the culture aspect of it as well that I talked about before. This technology and what's happening in AI and agentic AI is so exciting. And so we have the opportunity as leaders to bring that excitement into our organizations. Dispel the fear, uncertainty, and doubt in your organization and get everybody really excited. And the way that you build excitement is to learn yourself. So I know Jennifer talked about this, but making sure that you're constantly educating yourself. There's so many podcasts, there's so many articles out there of what's changing, what's exciting, and really kind of painting that think big, what the future is going to look like for your organization can really help build that groundswell and really bring everybody in your company along the ride with you.
Yeah, I mean, data-driven collaborative innovation, don't be afraid of it, and help learn and practice that yourself and encourage that to others. I agree 100%. I'll also lean in on the human side of things. Although AI is going to automate some tasks, okay, we're all women and we have the greatest asset of emotional intelligence. And so it is our opportunity to, again, even shine more than we already do and lean in on that a lot, because creativity, leadership, those things can't be coded, and we have that sense within ourselves inherent in us. And so really activate that.
Well, that's just a perfect way to end this panel. So thank you, Michelle, Erica, and Kara.